In this part of the demonstration, I will show you how to approve your logs. Approving your logs is basically the same as scanning them in. It tells bar none that you have confirmed that your logs are accurate and correct. You should approve your logs at the end of each day. To get started, tap the QHOS Hours of Service button from the home screen. This will bring you to the QHOS system. Now tap the Approve tab. On this tab you'll see everything you have done today and everything you have done since you last approved your logs. These events are shown in chronological order with the most recent activity at the top. This column here shows the date of the activity. This column shows the type of activity. D is for driving, SB is for sleeper berth, off is for off duty, and on is for on duty not driving. This column shows what time you started that activity. The time is in military format and is always Central Time. This last column shows how long the activity lasted. So what you need to do now is look over this list and make sure everything looks correct. If something does not look correct, you can edit it. Please note that you cannot edit driving time. Driving time is automatically recorded by the engine and will be correct. So let's say you find this record that shows on duty for 15 minutes and you remember that you were taking a break at a rest area. You will need to change this record from on duty not driving to off duty. To do this, make sure the record is highlighted by tapping it. Now tap the Edit button. The edit screen appears. The top line shows you what the original status is, what time and date it was started, and how long it lasted. The next line has a drop-down list of available statuses to choose from. Tap the down arrow to open the list of choices. Since we want to change the status from on duty to off duty, tap the off option. The next line has a note field. For all status edits, you will be required to enter a note. As before, there is a drop-down option with some pre-filled notes. None of these really apply to this situation, so you will need to type out a note. You might want to type something like, "Forgot to change status at rest area." To complete the edit, tap the OK button. You will be returned to the Approve screen and you can see that the status has changed. Once you do this, your clocks will be updated to reflect the change. This screen also lets you split an activity into two different activities. For example, let's say you stopped to fuel and went on duty. Then when you were finished fueling, you entered the truck stop to shower and eat, but you forgot to change your status to off duty. So your logs will show you on duty for that entire time. In order to save this time from your 70-hour clock, you will want to split that on duty time into some on duty and some off duty time. Here is how to do this. Find the on duty time that you want to edit and tap it to highlight it. This block of time here is 1 hour long on duty, so let's say that we stopped to fuel and then went off duty but forgot to switch ourselves to off duty. Once you have the record highlighted, tap the Edit button. This will bring up the edit screen as before. Now to split this time into two different statuses, tap this little button here that looks like scissors. This creates another row. Since you were on duty fueling and then went off duty to take a break, change the second row to off duty. Now it's time to think about how long you were fueling and how long you were on break. When you click the scissors button, the Qualcomm split the time in half. You can see here that there are 30 minutes for each activity. To adjust this time, use these left and right arrows. Let's say you were fueling for 15 minutes and then were off duty for 45 minutes. Tap the left arrow to decrease the on-duty time. You can see how that changed the time associated with each status. Your on-duty time is now 29 minutes and your off-duty time is now 31 minutes. To get to the desired 15 minutes of on-duty time, you can hold down the left arrow until the top line shows 15 minutes. If you hold it down too long, you can tap the right arrow to get the time back up to 15 minutes. Once you have it where you need it, you need to enter a note. So type something like fuel, then break in the notes box. To complete the split, tap the OK button. This will return you to the Approved screen. Once you are finished approving your logs, tap the Approve All button to approve them all. All logs in the list will permanently disappear. They are sent to bar none showing your approval. Just repeat this process at the end of each day. In this part of the demonstration, I will show you how to view your clocks and log history. To get started, tap the HOS Hours of Service button. This should bring you to the Status screen. So far, we have gone over the Status tab, the Approved tab, and the Load tab. Now I will show you what is on all of these other tabs. Let's start with the Summary tab. This tab simply shows you how much time you have left on your 11, 14, and 70-hour clocks. Please note this shows how much time you have left, not how much time you have used. The clock in the upper right corner of your screen will always show you the clock with the least available time. Right now it shows our 11-hour clock. The Graph tab shows you the chart that you had to fill out on paper logs. The Qualcomm fills it in for you. Line 1 shows you time that was spent off duty. Line 2 shows sleep or berth time. Line 3 shows driving time. Line 4 shows on duty, not driving time. On the right, you can see the totals for each status so far today. You can see these up to 8 days back. To go back to a previous day, tap the left arrow. To go forward a day, tap the right arrow. To select the custom date, tap this drop-down arrow next to the date. You can select any date up to 8 days back. If you try to select a date before that, nothing will happen. To see details about a status, tap the Show Info button. This will show you detail about the currently highlighted status. It shows you what the status was, the time and date it started, how long it lasted, and the city and state it started in. To move to the next status, tap the Next button. To move to the previous status, tap the Previous button. To hide the detail, tap the Show Info option again. The Daylog tab shows all the information that was on the graph but without the graph. These green checkboxes on the left indicate that you approved that log event. You can look at logs up to 8 days back with the back and forward arrows at the top. You can also select a custom date by clicking the down arrow next to the date. The 8-Day tab shows a summary of the last 8 days. It shows the date, the mileage driven that day, the total time spent on line 3 driving time, and the total time spent on line 4 on duty not driving. Notice that you can scroll down on the screen. This screen is also where you can fax your logs to a DOT officer. If a DOT officer does not want to deal with using the Qualcomm screen to look at your logs, you can send a printout of your logs via a fax. To do this, tap the Fax button. On this next screen, type in the fax number including area code. Then type the name of the DOT officer you are sending the fax to. Then tap the Request button to complete the fax request. This can take 5 to 10 minutes to be sent to the fax machine. You now know how to check your clocks, log detail, and fax logs to a DOT officer.